On this page, we are practicing all 4 operations with decimals, with the same decimal numbers. Each row has the same 2 numbers used in all 4 operations. And you need to make sure you apply the correct procedure for each operation. We'll do this whole row together, and then I'll do a few samples down at the bottom. First, you're adding and subtracting. You have the very same rules for how you set it up. First, you're adding, and what I like to do, make sure the decimals lined up, and make sure if you have a space that's blank on top or underneath a number, generally on top actually, to put a 0. You can put zeros underneath too, so that you have a number, in every single column. If that makes it easier, that's fine. And then you add, of course. Then we've got to bring the decimal straight down. Adding and subtracting, those are the only operations where you have to line up the decimals so that they're all right up on top of each other. You don't have to do that in multiplication or in division. With subtraction, same thing. I'm going to put zeros here and here and here. These 2 zeros are optional. This one you definitely need to put, especially for subtraction, because right now I have to take away 2. And when you have a 0 up there, it reminds you that I'm trying to take 2 away from 0, from nothing. So this needs to be regrouped. Often I see in this type of a problem, they just bring down the 2. It doesn't work that way. You're taking the 2 away from nothing, which can't be done. So you must regroup. So this becomes a 10, this becomes a 3. 10 minus 2 is 8, 3 minus 1 is 2. Bring that 0 straight down. 4, 1. Subtraction. Multiplication. Now it's irrelevant where the decimals are when you perform the procedure. In fact, when you're performing the procedure, you pretty much pretend like the decimals aren't there. In fact, they can be a bit of a distraction sometimes, because a lot of times I'll see people trying to put the decimals down the problem. That's confusing things. Just in your mind, pretend like they're not there. Just multiply as though this was 144 times 12. This 4 is 8, 2 times. Now, here's where the decimal comes in. Remember, you add up all the decimals to the right, all the digits to the right of the decimal up here. You've got 1, 2, 3, so you're going to go 1, 2. Make sure you have 3 digits to the right of the decimal in your product. On to division. Here, you see that you've got a decimal in your divisor. Well, you can't divide accurately and get your decimals correct if you have a decimal in the divisor. So the very first thing you've got to do, number 1 priority, is to move that decimal so that you have a whole number. In order to make 12/100ths a whole number into just 12, you've got to move the decimal 2 places. If you move it here 2 places, you must also move it here 2 places. 1, 2. Now, don't try to use that. Go ahead and rewrite it underneath, or on, some notebook paper if you feel like this isn't going to give you enough room. You see, when you rewrite it, I see that I've got 1,440 divided by 12. And I won't confuse where my decimal goes in my answer, because this is exactly how it should be. I don't have a bunch of squirrely stuff written around and these and stuff. Let me erase that so that I still don't have any squirrely stuff around, because I just undid everything I was applauding. 12 goes into 1 0 times. It goes into 14 1 time. 12 goes into 24 2 times. I still have another 0, so I need to keep going. 12 goes into 0 0 times. And my answer is 120. So 14 and 4/10 divided by 12 hundredths is 120. Now down here, the bottom two rows, the most important thing here is just making sure that you set them up correctly since they're not already set up. In real life, problems aren't set up for you. In real life, you have numbers and you've got to set them up on your own. So this is more realistic here. You've got 16 and 8/10 plus 2, and you've got to add them. You've got to set them up right. Just like when you're adding numbers like 500 plus 30, you don't add the 5 and 500 plus the 3 and 30. Because one is 500s, one is 3/10. It's the same with the decimal. Make sure you don't add the two wholes to the 8/10. You add the 2 wholes to the 6. Because this is 2 ones, that's 6 ones. If it helps, put the decimal in your number that doesn't have a decimal in it, in your whole number, just put a decimal in it, and then make sure your decimals line up. If you do that, then you'll get them in the right column. So now I'll just go ahead and stick my zeros. You know, it's more optional if you want to put your zeros on the bottom, but you really, really have to put them on the top, especially subtracting. So 8 plus 0 brings my decimal straight down, and then 8, 1. I guarantee you I'll have a lot of people add this and get 17 because they'll add 2 to the 8/10. Number 17, I have 75 plus 5/100. Let's go ahead and show that in the whole number 75, that's where our decimal would be. By doing that, it helps me line up my numbers because if you've got the decimals in the right place, all the other digits will be in the right place. All you've got to do is make sure these decimals are right on top of each other. I've got zeros. If that helps to do that. This one's subtraction, so you're definitely going to need to do that. You will definitely have to regroup in that. Just giving you a little heads up. So I'm just doing the adding ones to make sure you have a heads up on setting them up. The way you set these up will be the same as these. Right, and finally this one, 75 divided by 5/100. Remember, this is your divisor. It's the number you're dividing by. It has a decimal in it. You've got to move the decimal 2 places to make it into a whole number. 1, 2, so that means you have to move the decimal 2 places here. Since there's not one already in it, you'll just stick it where it would otherwise be. And then 2 places would be 1, 2, 2 zeros. So now you have 5 into 7,500. So when I move this 1, 2, I move this 1, 2. Now, since all of these are in front of my decimal, I need to make sure I have, I keep dividing out until I have a digit on top of everything. Sometimes when people come to 0, they think they can stop. But if we haven't gotten to the decimal yet, you've got to have a digit on top of that, even if it's 0. 5 goes into 7 one time. 5 goes into 25 5 times. Oh, looky here. Bring down the 0. Go straight up, 0. Bring down the 0. Go straight up, 0. The answer is 1,500. 1,500. If you do everything that we did together, then you will get everything correct.